It is the Yet Come On Short Show. This is the shortest podcast we'll ever do, and we're going to do it with a guest. Never been tried before by the three of us. It is the Yet Come On Show 136. We'll call it a quickie. We've all had one of those. And we started off with a little backwards audio. Why? I'll tell you, Craig Gass, our special guest, because Thunder, Love Walked in the Door, that band won't give us permission to play it. So I can't lose the money. I got to get the money. We got to get money any way we can these days. I can't give up the cheddar to their record label. So I got to play backwards audio. Then we found out it says something nasty.
Oh, well, you can say anything nasty on a podcast, right?
Well, this is backwards audio, and it says my white. What did it say, guys?
I eat white ass.
I eat white ass.
Yeah, that was what we sussed out last week.
A listener pointed it out too.
Yeah.
Who knew? Who knew? I'm telling everybody every show that I eat white ass, and I'm like, I don't know if that's good or bad.
Why not? What's wrong with it?
I don't know. You know what? Who knows? Craig Gass will be the only member of this show not drinking. I just want to thank you for that. You'll be the responsible one. I'm the only one with a bottle of, here it is, the Yeah Come On Bourbon. This is how much is left. I've been naughty. Craig's drinking, is that straight vodka or water? I don't even know.
Straight water.
Ooh, straight water.
Sourced from Starbucks.
Evan, first we'll introduce our guys here. Craig, my co-host, Brett Barney. What are you drinking?
Oh, we go in, what's that? That's a 24-ounce White Claw.
Oh, yeah, we got a man on this show. Look at you. Oof.
Oh, yeah. No bourbon until Saturday.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, I wish I would have got the memo.
Sorry, I'm with you. Evan, our co-host, Evan Brando. What are you drinking?
I'm sipping some Willet.
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 I can't believe it. I'm drinking Legends Yeah Come On Bourbon whiskey. Who knew?
That's
Who
so
knew
cool.
this would ever happen? Cheers. Craig Gass, you were hand selected by myself. I'm like, who would I want for entertainment? And I said, who do I love in this crazy industry? And I went after Gass, and who knew that you would be free this week to do this? So cheers to you, sir. Thank you for being on.
It worked out perfectly for this week. I just moved to Vegas, and I was planning on relaxing this week in Vegas, but jumped out.
Sorry.
And it's all right, man. I'm happy to hang out, man. Again, every time I come to this town, I'm always just thinking like, man, this place is beautiful, man. I just, it's just the neighborhoods here, just, I don't know, man. And then every time I listen to Southside, I only get snippets of him every time I come out, which is like once every other year. But I always feel like, man, I don't even know what his audience is like. Every time I hear him, he always just seems to be using his inside thoughts outside. Like he's always just saying exactly what he's thinking. And
It's not
so
good.
candid. It's so candid. Have you ever gotten, I don't even know, by the way, I know you probably have a point and a direction to all this, but can I just ask you a couple questions about your life?
Yeah, you interview me. I like it. Why not?
All right. For all the times that you've, in the brief amount of time that I've spent with you and hearing you say things that are not things that people usually say out loud, but do think. You ever gotten in trouble to the point where you've had people stalking you or gotten suspended from work?
Yeah, I got suspended for 10 days last year, and then I've been stalked. I had a guy show up at a bar wanting to confront me, but I used to tell people, I said, "Here's where I'm going to be from 6 until 8. If you don't like what I just said, or you get into it with a listener." But that happened. You just gotta just be, I guess, ballsy, and be like, "Whatever, dude. I'm not going to run from any jerk that's threatening me."
Of course.
So here's where I'm at. Come on. And then the 10-day suspension sucked because it was a joke I had told about 10 years ago when I worked with the regular guys. And it was a Michael Jackson joke about dropping my kids off at his house and getting them counseling and never having to work again. And I got in trouble for that. Here's the funny thing. I don't even think Michael ever did anything. I'm like the only guy I know that thinks Michael was innocent and just thought he was a kid and he'd like to get in pajamas. I could be wrong, but that's what I thought. And I make a silly joke. And then I have a video, probably 5 videos go out a day of how much I love my kids. In real life, I would never, ever in a million years do that. But the fact that one person got pissed, I got a nice 10-day no paycheck.
You know, I used to do a joke about that on stage about dropping off one of my kids at Michael's house and telling him to go inside and saying, "We'll buy you a new asshole. Get in there." And I don't even have kids, so it was just
Damn.
like a silly joke. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So
but
humor, whatever happened to switching the channel if you don't like it? We were all raised, at least, you're not as old as I am, but our group were like, words don't hurt. It was the old sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt you. I was taught that no matter what somebody calls me, no matter what they say, whether they come at me from a religious, a political standpoint, no matter what, it can't hurt you. Let it roll off your back. Now people lose jobs and careers over the dumbest shit.
I couldn't agree more. I don't know if your two co-hosts know this about me, and you're going to think it's a joke, and it's not. My entire family is deaf. My mom, my dad, my sister are all completely deaf. And, and the most awful, insensitive deaf jokes I've ever heard in my life were from deaf people. And I remember my sister a few years ago, I threw a surprise birthday party for her, and afterwards at dinner, my sister,
Do you have to be
she's
quiet
sitting
for
across.
that, or you can make noise? You just can't be seen, right?
You know what's funny is that's a great observation because there are people who thought like, oh my God, you must have had the quietest house in the neighborhood. And I was like, no, I had the loudest because
Because she
nobody told
can't
me to
hear
turn
it.
you can't hear it. Nobody told me to turn the stereo down. I cursed all the time. No, like I would curse in front of my mom. People were like, dude. And I go, she can't hear it, man. It's all right. But my sister, we're sitting at dinner. She's sitting across the table from me. She's signing. And she waves at me and goes, do you want to hear a good joke? And I said, sure. And she looked at me and said, me too. I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? Yeah. So, but what's interesting about it, you know who were the most sensitive people about deaf jokes? People around us, not my deaf family, but people around us were trying to be protective of us, for us, but they weren't part of
Yeah.
us. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I
it
kind of I
was
kind of
interesting.
get that. You got to let it go, and that's where podcasts are kind of cool, but you still watch what you say and what you do. Talking about, having you in town because we're doing the release actually in less than 48 hours. We're going to blast this out. You've flown in to be our special guest. And then Will Turpin, they're coming off the road from being on with Sammy Hagar, and they're on the West Coast right now. So they're going to come in, which I know is your guy. And they're going to fly in, and actually a couple of the guys are going to show up, and then they've got another singer. Ed's already like apologized to me 5 times. I'm like, I get it, he has somewhere he has to be, but we're going to do some collective soul music after you. So we'll have a little bit of 4 or 5 songs, and that's it, other than being entertained by you and a couple of ex-ball players coming, a few other people. I think we got somebody from Headline News, so we'll see who all shows. But it should be a fun night. um, One thing that you're into right now is you are working with Howard Stern, right?
Yeah, I'm back on the Howard Stern show, and he just started a vacation this week for 10 weeks. And I'm going on my tour starts. It was going to start next week, but my tour starts right now. And I was gonna
Because of
tour
us.
his entire 10-week, yeah, because of you guys. So was his vacation starts, and we're having a bunch of creative meetings about fun stuff to do when he gets back in September. But yeah, I had Howard gave me my first big break, and then I started sitting next to Howard, and then I ended up. I mean, there's a lot that happened in between, but basically, I started doing voices on his show. Then I started writing for his show, and then in '98, I moved back to New York. I moved in with another comedian, Mitch Hedberg, and Mitch
Mm-hmm.
was let me crash at his
Pick up
place while I
that name
started.
for you. You just drop. Yep.
Yeah,
Just dropped
writing
it.
that show.
Let me pick that up for
Yeah,
you.
and
Wait till he
and then in
tells you that he lived
2001.
at Eddie Van Halen's house. That's coming too. He'll drop that on you.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Ed was my other roommate, and then in
Ed.
2001 I started sitting. In 2001 I started sitting next to Howard, and then that led to all the acting, King of Queens and Sex and the City and all that stuff. And then 20 years later, Howard reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you ever want to work with me again?" And I was like, Sure. Like I didn't even believe it. Like it wasn't.
Mhm.
It was kind of a surreal experience. But I've been back on his show now for a few months.
All
So.
right, and one quick question too. I got to know, and I don't know if you guys have a question for Craig Gass, again, our special gas comedian. Gas comedian. You're a guest, but I got to gas it. Notice what I did there? I just had to. I don't know. It happened by
Special
accident.
guest is right there.
I know, I know, but it just happened. That's what he talks about. I say shit that I probably shouldn't say. But no, is Howard Stern running for president, and is Bradley Cooper going to be this VP? I gotta know.
He is definitely running for president. I don't know how far he's going to take it,
Oh,
but
God.
that happened before I started working with him. He did a big run for governor in New York, and he started polling pretty high in New York. And his only platform was we got to execute more people on death row, and
Agreed.
we have a problem. And we have we have a pothole problem, and we're going to execute people and put the dead bodies in the potholes to fill them up. That's what he ran on. And he was polling high. Yeah, it was crazy. It was nuts. And I think he ran on the Libertarian ticket, and he was pulling in some big numbers, and then he finally backed out. But yeah, he's been outspoken about what's going on in the world, and really has been more and more serious about running for president and the things he wants to do when he is president. So
we'll see. I don't even know his platforms. I have no idea what Howard thinks. I don't even know if he's a Republican, Democrat, or like you said, middle guy, or does he lean one way or the other? I don't know. But if he does any of the crap that the current president has, I will hate him viciously and never listen to his show. And then I will beg you to get off that show. I don't want you on that show if that's what he's doing.
Well, he's been very agreeable to things on with both parties, and he always has been. And he's always believed that most people do agree with things about both parties, and that most of us do live in them.
100%. The middle lean a little. You're right. It's the intense people that ruin it for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's always that way. So from 6 until 7, we'll be doing the Yeah Come On show live incoming at Legends Distillery. So come and join us if you can. Craig, you slide in early. We'd love to have you on the podcast. I think we're going to have John Rocker on. I think we're going to have Otis Nixon on.
John Rocker? No shit.
Yep. Yeah, Rocker's a buddy of mine. So put you two guys together, and he's a trip. The dude's for real. You talk about saying what you think, meet Rocker. You'll enjoy it.
Wow, dude, it's crazy when you go around the country and you do radio in different markets that you meet those people in those markets that who are famous in those towns. I did a show a few years ago in Vancouver, BC, and I walked in, and Mike Reno from Loverboy is the co-host of the morning show. And I'm looking at him, I go, Mike? And he goes, yeah. And I go, are you promoting something? He goes, no, man, this is my show. He was the co-host to a much more well-known local radio legend in Vancouver. And they had Mike Reno as a co-host for a couple of years. And I just peppered him with questions about Loverboy for 2 straight days. And he didn't give anything for the first day, but the second day he started dropping some shit on me. I remember one of the things he dropped on me that blew my mind, and I probably shouldn't say this, is he said, he goes, yeah, man, I remember, and this is years ago before shit blew up on TMZ and stuff. He goes, yeah, man, we were on tour with Journey, and I remember their guitar player Neil coming in and just saying, Mike, I love pussy. I just can't get enough pussy, man. I just love it. I love pussy. And I kept looking at him going, the guy from Journey said that? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, I just found it so hard to believe. And literally within the next year, Journey just like, did you hear about all that shit? Did you hear about all that shit that happened with the Real Housewives and all that shit?
Yeah. I know a little bit about the Neil Sean thing. Talking about the chick that he got hooked up with, that didn't she crash a president's party or something like that? His wife?
She did. She was famous. She was famous for crashing a White House party.
Yeah.
She married a really rich guy in Washington, D.C., and the really rich guy came out, held a press conference and said, my wife is missing. I don't know where my wife is.
And it was like,
she was at that point famous for being on the TV show Real Housewives of Washington, D.C. And The next day, the police are looking. If anybody has information, we don't know what happened to her. She might be dead. The day after that, the Washington, D.C. police come out to say, we found her, and all we can say at this time is that she's safe. The next day, the story comes out that she's on tour with Journey. And then the next day after that, the husband says, Neil Sean is sending me dick pics. And I was like, what? Like, it just got crazy. And then she ended up touring with Journey. She fell in love with Neil. She left her husband. The husband starts releasing videos saying, I can't believe that band did this to me because I've been spending so much money on the band. And then he starts releasing videos. He's one of those guys that will pay top dollar to do a VIP meet and greet for every Journey concert. He pays the extra $1,000, $2,000 so he can get pictures with the band, hang out with them stuff. And he has all these videos where he's trying to take pictures of his wife with Neil. And he says, Neil, come on, man, give my wife a kiss. And he's looking at his wife going, I'll kiss her, man. I'll give her a good kiss. Yeah. And he goes, yeah, man, give her. And he has no idea. He's pushing these two together. And then she ends up humping this guy around the country. It's one of the funniest stories ever. Anyways, I don't even know if that fits the format of this podcast, but I'm sorry.
Oh, that is spot on.
Oh,
yeah.
Humping around the country.
Yeah, that is
might
spot
be
on.
the name of this show.
Good. I'm glad.
This is what we do. And I don't even know right now. I know you're going to be doing, you're going to be touring. So I look forward to your material. But, the other thing is people don't realize, you lived with Eddie Van Halen. So it's kind of cool. You obviously know Sammy Hagar and these guys. You were living there at the studio. Now you find out that Wolfgang's not living there. Obviously, Valerie's not living there. So then the question goes, will he keep the 5150 studio? Are they going to sell the home and maybe the home and everything where you lived? Is that going to go up for sale, or do you think Wolfgang holds on to it?
I don't know.
'Cause he's engaged now, so she probably doesn't want to live there.
Yeah, but I also know that he's recorded stuff out of there. He's recorded out of that spot. And a good friend of mine is now in Wolfie's band. Is one of the guitar players in Wolfie's band, who also plays with Slash, Frank Doris. And I don't know. I mean, the value of that property with the recording studio, I just don't think that Wolfie's going to want to let go of the recording studio. There's nothing next door to the recording studio now. It's basically two properties put together. The original property was the house he moved into with Valerie, which is a very modest looking house. And then he built what looks like almost like an apartment building structure next to it, which is the recording studio. And that's where I lived. And then he bought the property next door, demolished the house, regraded the earth, and built a mansion and a guest house. His assistant, Maddie, lived in the guest house, and Ed lived in the mansion. And so it's two properties put together. Maybe they'll take that half with the mansion and sell that part. I don't know. But I have to say, though, I never really saw Sammy over there, because every time Sammy or Mike came over, I was told I had to leave and go to the guest house because they weren't getting along. So another thing I don't know if I should be saying out loud, but they were they were really not getting. In fact, so here's the time frame I'm living there in 2004. They're getting ready to put out a new album, which is going to be a best of album with 2 new songs with Sammy. And they hired a couple of kids. It was my understanding they were like interns, like they were college kids, and they wanted a couple of kids to, they just wanted to document the reunion of the band reuniting with Sammy. And apparently there was so much ugliness that went down between everybody that they just decided, we can't ever let people see this, man. This is bad. This is nasty. So they never put it out. So they shelved the whole thing. And I think last I heard that whoever it was that filmed it, they kept it and they were trying to release it. Oh, and they were still trying to release what happened. Yeah. So
I'd love to see that. I want to see Sammy pissed. I mean, Sammy can box. I don't know about Eddie. Alex looks like he's pretty intense. And then you got, obviously Michael was probably on Sammy's side, which, or when your son wants to be in the band, you're like, I'm going to put my son in the band. You're fired. I don't know what happened. Michael Anthony, he looks like he can get along with anybody.
I know. And I never understood that. I've talked to a lot of people in that world over the last few years about, why did they not I didn't understand it. Like Eddie was not very flattering towards Michael, but he also really wanted Wolfie to be in the band, and he would say back then, and this is 2004, he'd say, "I just want to go out and," he always had a cigarette. He'd go, "Dude, I want to go out and tour with me and Alex and my kid, the real Van Halen." And I'd be like, "Sounds good, man." Like, he'd always like stare at you like, so you just go, you don't know where to put your eyes. You're like, "Cool, man." Like, he was just always like,
"You're looking through me, man."
Yeah. It was very intense.
Oh, Evan,
he would do the same thing when.
Oh God, that is hilarious, man.
So how long have you guys been working on this together? How long have you and Evan and Brett been doing the Yeah Come On together?
Me and Steve are day one. Well, it's been like 3-something years. It was like around 2019.
No shit.
Yep.
And did you guys ever work together at other stations? How did you guys all know each other?
Steve and I did, but Brett was at one of our sister stations.
Yeah, I was at a talk station across the hall, and Steve just invited me at the water cooler. "Hey, I heard you know how to do podcasts. You want to do one?"
No shit.
And I just left one.
Well, I'm technically challenged. These two handle everything. All I do is get on a microphone, and I appreciate them very much. But Brett is he's selling himself short. We did a couple of podcasts called Tournaments where we covered the shooting at Centennial, which I was there, and we had insight on that. And then we did the Day Trader shooting, which I was there for that too. So it was kind of neat that we covered two things that I was on location when both occurred. And he wrote and voice coached it, and I just was impressed with his abilities at his age. He's a fantastic writer, and I knew he'd done podcasts. That's why I grabbed him. And Evan has done promotions, but he's an on-air guy. Had done afternoons when I was doing mornings on Rock as a co-host, and then I grabbed him, and he still fills in for us on Axel and Southside if we're hurting. He'll be on the board tomorrow running the show while we're out at Cool Ray Field.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
So he'll be in studio handling everything with our producer who will stay in studio. And then Axel and I'll be on location with you. So, yeah, these guys are great. Any questions for Craig Gass? Or Craig, you got a question for them? You definitely interviewed my ass.
I haven't even gotten to I only asked you a couple questions. I still had more for you.
Let her rip.
He's the hard-hitting journalist right here.
But all three of you are radio guys, right? You're all radio guys. Mm-hmm. So you know how brutal the business can be, which is another thing that's an anomaly as I travel around the country over and over again and around the world, is that you see that some guys don't stay in markets for a long time. They don't stay in the same city for a long time. And Southside is, every time I think of Atlanta, I think about him. I've repeated the story so many times, man, but do you guys know about that first time that I met Southside? He really opened, or he like got me to open up to him because I was in a lot of pain that morning when I first came in and to do that show. Do you guys know that story?
Let her rip.
No, first time.
I come in to do the regular guys, and it comes up in the first break that I'm not in good shape. I'm not happy. I'm going through a breakup with a girl who I really love, and I'm just not well. And we go to commercial. Southside turns to me and he goes, "Man, what's going on? You're not doing good, man? What's happening, man? I've been there, man. I feel you, man. What's happening?" I said, "Man, I don't know. I'm just I'm confused, and all I know is I love this girl." And he said, "Yeah, come on, tell me." And he fucking gets me to start opening up, and everything I say, he meets me. He goes, "Absolutely. Yeah, man, I get it. And then at one point, I feel so bonded with this stranger. He says, "It's just like 38 Special says, you got to hold on loosely, but you don't let go." And I said, "Exactly. Wait, what the fuck?" Like, I didn't know how the fuck did we just end up in a Southern rock fucking, how did that analogy just hit me? And I understood it. Just talking to this stranger for 2 minutes, I understood this analogy, and I just had to back up and go, "Wait a minute, what the hell just happened? This guy just slipped my pants off. I don't even know what's going on." Like, he just, he's in my soul.
That's where the 419 people I slept with, I did the same thing there. But it's all about charisma. It's all about confidence, and it's all about not knowing how to talk to somebody.
Is that a real number?
Yeah, it's a real number, 100%. My wife is
419.
My wife is 419.
Why would you stop? You're one short, my man.
One away.
I ask this every time.
But he's not a stoner.
I'm not
It
a
doesn't
stoner.
matter. If I'm at 68, it doesn't matter if I'm not like a heathen, right? I'm bumping it up one. You know?
Hey,
You know what? Hold
I'll be
on, guys.
honest.
Hold on. I think I got the question. You two sit back for 1 second.
All right, yeah.
I think I got the question. Steve,
Yeah.
Mr. Southside,
Mhm.
419 women. When I ask you if there's one that stands out as your biggest regret, do you picture who that is?
Yeah.
Can you describe for the audience at home what was so wrong with the biggest regret? Go ahead, Mr. Southside.
Well, it
The floor is
was.
yours.
Thank you. There were two actual regrets. One, the chick was a total freak and just needed somebody to tame her, and I should have done it. Instead, I engaged the freak side of it, and then realized what a broken person she was, how much help she needed, and at the time, I didn't have the time to put into her to fix her. Let her go. And then she ends up getting arrested. She ends up being hooked on crack. She ends up with the wrong guys. She ends up being put in jail. And then she gets out of jail, got her life back together, finished college, and now lives out of state. And I knew there was a good girl in there, but had I saved her, it probably never would have happened. That's a huge regret. And then the other one was a
Wow.
school teacher that was all into me. Talked her into wearing like thigh highs and a short dress to my brother's wedding, which got me in a lot of trouble with my mother. But she was just a cool chick, and I just moved on to the next one and let her fly. And before I met my wife, I was always going, "That's the one that got away. That's the one that got away." You know.
Wow. You know what? That is not at all the answers I was expecting. When I said biggest regret,
Wait, do you want the girl that gave me a sexually transmitted disease? Because her name's Lynette.
I think anybody from Alpharetta probably knows Lynette.
She was a Southside. No, she was a Southside girl. Literally,
All right.
literally. I'm at junior college, and she goes, "Y'all want to go to lunch?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I'm in my Camaro, my 1982 and a half 4-speed Camaro, and I got my buddy Charlie in the back seat. And Loverboy, I think, was on the radio. By the way, Journey is my favorite band. Then comes Def Leppard. Loverboy would be a top 20. And we're jamming, and she leans over, she goes, "Do you mind if I give you head?" I'm like, "What?"
It's a very
And I'm
polite
like,
way to ask that question.
and I looked at her and I said, and I just figured she was totally joking. I'm like, "Sure, go right ahead." And I'm just driving. Next thing I know, zip. And I'm like, broad daylight, going to lunch, going to Wendy's. Buddy Charlie's in the back seat. It starts happening. I'm looking back at Charlie. We're high-fiving. And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." And that happens. That happens. And then I get back, we finish class. Then she's like, "What are you doing tonight?" And I'm like, "I thank you." And she goes, "Yeah, you are." So she shows up. Then my buddy, we're in his 280Z, and she's like, "He can come if he wants to have fun. He can have fun." He's like, "I'm in." So this chick, we get in the back, we flip a coin. Who's going to go first? I won, and then I said, "Why not? I'd rather go first than second." So I'm in the back, hatchback 280Z, and as I'm going at it, I'm wearing a condom, but the condom breaks. It broke. And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm wearing a turtleneck. This isn't good." So I definitely knew what to do. But I finished. And the whole time I'm going through in between the seats, he's playing Slide It In by Whitesnake. And he's like messing with me. And it's like 1984. And I'm like, "Stop, dude, stop." And then I end up the next day, I'm at college and I'm going to the bathroom and it burned. I was like, "Ha, ha." And then I look and I've got a discharge in my underwear. So I have to call the school nurse, and I'm like trying to use proper words. And I'm like, "There's a burning sensation when I urinate, and I look to be discharging some type of brown substance." She goes, "Oh, you've got the drip." She goes, "It's gonorrhea. We get about 10 cases a week. Come on in." I'm like, "What? What?" So I got gonorrhea, got it fixed.
Wow. See, now
But
I was thinking,
that's a regret.
I just want to check with the other two co-hosts. Did you guys follow me in thinking that I was asking Southside biggest regret in terms of like, "Oh man, I shouldn't have had sex with that"? Did you follow me?
I was thinking along the lines of like, you know how Tucker Max back in the day was a big deal, and he was like, well, if a girl doesn't get wet, that's because it's a tranny. And then you find out, or like something like that, and he'd be like, "Oh, I regret that." I remember he went on the Regular Guys and talked about that. I was in high school listening to that.
I was thinking regret was going to be like, oh man, that girl was. I was so hammered. I would have never done that if I was hammered. Like
I was on closer to Steve's train of thought, where it was like, who was the one that was like so good you've never had something better, and you regret just like stopping at, you know, that number, not stopping at that number.
Well, to anyone listening, and I will tell you, and this is a fact, you take your 10 bet, you marry the 10th best person you ever slept with, maybe 8th is about as high as you want to go. Because if you've had a lot of sex, if you haven't had a lot of sex, marry the 3rd best. Because if you marry the best sex, it's not going to work out. 2nd and 3rd, if she's a freak, she's going to stay a freak, and it's never going to work. Never. It's going to be a sexual relationship. You won't keep up. The cheat will come. It will happen. So you never marry the best. And I know who those were. And I was even like, this is too good. I'm walking away. It's going to kill me, but I'm walking away. And occasionally, if you were available and she called, you went back and hit it again. But you're like, I'm not hitting and staying. No way. No way. You got to walk away from those girls. And a lot of guys don't. And that's your first divorce. Yep. And it's usually psycho. Yeah.
That's actually solid advice. That is really, really solid advice. As entertaining as it is to hear you say that out loud, it's actually solid advice.
That's Steve. Though, that's just Steve's aesthetic, man.
I'm curious though. The girl that, the one that you regret letting go, the one who wore the short skirt to your brother's wedding,
the school teacher, and she taught special ed, which is probably why she had an interest in me. Wish it wasn't true.
What became of that girl? Is she married or?
She's married. I used to call her and she'd just come over, service me, and she's like, "This guy really likes me. Quit stringing me along. What do you want me to do?" And I'm like, go. I go. And then, I took her on a ski trip. We went out to Salt Lake and did a few things. And then I just said, just go. And
I thought ski trip was like a euphemism or something. Yeah, she'd come over. I took her on a ski trip. I was like, oh, Jesus, what the hell is that?
No, there are moves. I do have a few moves, but they are named. But yeah, and I just kind of let her go. And then I tried to get her back when I was dating a couple other different girls, and, I couldn't. But my thing is another thing, and the number could have been higher, but I was like a 7.5 and up. So everything's a numbers game with me. I rate everything on a scale of 1 to 10 in my life. Everything's a scale of 1 to 10. And having you here to represent me and to kick off this bourbon launch is a 10. Just letting you know. Your background, Craig Gass, is a 10. The 2 guys working with me, one of them's a 7, one of them's an 8. I won't go into it. But, the situation.
I'll take the 7 for that. Fuck it. Like you know me long enough. I don't give a shit. That's rounding up.
I was also 7. Brett's been here.
I won't date a girl. I won't date anything less than a 7 or have sex. I just wouldn't. I had standards. I couldn't do it. I saw guys jump. Couldn't do it.
Lowest number you've ever hooked up with?
7-1, and that was Lynette. I would say Lynette, and then there's a couple of girls that just at the right place, right time. That God, great face, great hair. Okay, butt's a little bigger than I'd want it to be. Your breasts are real, and they're just not really good. But what the hell? And but if you looked at them out, you'd be like, oh man, she's hot. Just this wasn't what I dated too many doing the Hooters bikini contest and doing that. Too many of those bodies. I got into a certain body type and I just kind of lived there. So, I've probably only, I don't know about you guys. I've probably only grabbed maybe 30 real breasts ever, 40 max
in your life.
Yeah. The rest of them are all
real, dog.
And I could even spot what doctor. I'm like, you went to Dr. James, didn't you? I figured. Yeah.
Wow.
The areola's a little off the center. No, but I mean, that's obviously bullshit. But yeah, just a lot of fake breasts out there. Georgia's full of them. Full of them.
Wow. So your 2 co-hosts, you guys, have you guys always been in this city of Atlanta? Have you broadcast? Have you worked in other markets?
No, I've only ever worked in Atlanta. I'm originally from Chicago, but we moved here when I was in like high school. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm from Atlanta, and then I went to college in Alabama. So I did like 4 years in Alabama, doing small market, tiny radio, which is awesome because as an intern, like I started as an intern in Atlanta, then went over there, and in Atlanta, it's like you can watch me do this, but don't touch anything.
Yeah.
Then you get into a small market, they're like, oh no, you're our executive producer. And I'm like, what? I'm hungover.
Yeah. That's cool, man. I really admire anybody who can stay where they're from. It's like that story of Seven Dust. Like I love that Seven Dust made it out of Atlanta,
Mm.
And
Those are great guys too. I had them at my bar. I know all of them. They're fantastic dudes, man.
They
Hometown
are
heroes.
I'm sorry?
Hometown heroes, local boys doing good.
Dude, those guys, every one of them are just great human beings, man. And God, just I really admire them. I like anybody who
They like Jaeger, by the way. I didn't know if you know that. They drink a lot of Jaeger.
I mean, I can't even. I remember seeing an interview once where they were all like kind of being really forthcoming about all the drugs they did, and I was kind of shocked at how much they were talking about, how much drugs they were talking about while still being creative. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And if I think I seem to remember their story, even though they did it out of Atlanta, the story was always that they had this like one of the worst deals ever in the history of the music business with JJ French from Twisted Sister. That JJ, this is the way I understand it, and I could be wrong, and I've never talked to the guys about it, and I not only know those guys, like I text and check in with some of those guys sometimes. I see Lejean now out in Kansas City when I'm in Kansas City, and Clint's in St. Louis, and but I think that their manager got 50% of everything when he first signed them, which you couldn't believe that could happen in the 1990s. This is like behind the music's coming out. People are learning just how bad the deals can be, and they still ended up in this terrible deal. Am I wrong in that, Southside?
No, I don't know about 50%. I never heard that story, but I knew that they were in a bad deal. Everybody that came out of Atlanta, I mean, you hear that from Collective Soul, then Driving and Crying. I never really heard them talk about bad management deals, but I know Collective Soul and Seven Dust got burned pretty heavy. And then, of course, Collective Soul got out of it.
Dude, that was like everybody in Motown.
Yeah.
Everyone in Motown was like 30%, managers 70. They even did a thing on it in The Sopranos.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Barry Gordy, he totally screwed everyone over. Right?
Dude, the first time I met anyone from Collective Soul, I go to this radio station in Cleveland. This is like 15 years ago. And they said, we got comedian Craig Gass coming in at 7, and then we have the singer of Collective Soul coming in at 8, and then something else at 9, and blah, blah, blah. So I come in, and my buddy, and they've let me, Southside and Axel, over the years, to let me do this. Instead of saying, hey, we got a comedian who does impressions, and you've heard him on Family Guy and American Dad. Instead of doing that, this guy says, I just want you to just come on and just be a bunch of celebrities. So I'm on the air as somebody else and Al Pacino. I just remember it was Al Pacino talking that made the producer come running in during a break and said, you're not going to believe this. I just got a phone call from the singer for Collective Soul. He's coming early because he said he's a huge Al Pacino fan and he's dying to meet him. Should I tell him it's a comedian? And me and the radio guy were like, fuck no, let him get in here.
Let his ass come in early.
So he gets up early and he races to the station. He comes in and they go, yeah, have a seat. And as soon as he walks in, he goes, hey man, so where is he at? And they go, oh, he's in the bathroom, he's taking a shit. Just hang on. And then we go back on the air, and then hey, we have the singer Collective Soul here, and man, so you're a big Al Pacino fan. Tell us about that. And he goes, oh man, well, he's, in my opinion, probably the greatest actor that ever lived. And he starts going on and on and on. And my buddy goes, well, meet Al Pacino. And I go, hi, Ed. How you doing? It's good to see you. And he just went, oh, man, you are kidding me. You are kidding me. You know what? For some reason, I want to say, I think it was Al Pacino and Lars Ulrich from Metallica for some reason. And he wanted to come in and meet those guys. And then, and ever since, we've been friends. And not only
they
do
love
I go
you.
out, dude, not only do I go out to the shows, man, they'll ask me to go up and do stand-up before they go on stage. I love those guys, man. It's such a great band.
No, and they told me Ed won't make it this Saturday night to Legends Brewery or Distillery, I should say.
Well, did you tell him Al Pacino was going to be there?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that's
but
a
I
game
will.
changer.
You know what? Let me send Ed a text and see if that changes it. But Will Turpin is going to be there, and he's like, "Man, we love Craig. We love Craig." And I'm like, "Far out, he'll be there."
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons Will's coming. So thank you, Craig.
Yeah, man, those guys have always been really, really supportive of me, man, and I love them for that. And there's been a couple times I've been lucky enough to be in the same town as them with a day off. I remember Tulsa, Oklahoma was one, and then Nashville. I think about 5-6 years ago, we were both in Nashville at the same time, and they always treat me like family, man.
Yeah, man.
It's incredible. It's incredible. In fact, I was with them one night that they were doing this crazy radio show. Like, radio stations will put together these artists that will never normally share a stage together, but because it's under the umbrella of this radio station, these are the artists performing tonight. And there was one of those Jack FM formats, which is like,
I remember those.
Oh man, we're so crazy. We go from Michael Jackson to Metallica to Bon Jovi to, Dolly Parton. It's like it's just like basically like, playing your iPod, just whatever's, on your iPod. So it's Collective Soul, Billy Squier, and I can't remember, Joan Jett, and a couple other artists. And Billy Squier insisted on playing acoustic, man. And when you think of his songs, some of those songs should not be played acoustically. There's such a power to some of those songs that it just didn't work. Like Stroke Me does not work acoustically. So Collective Soul blew him off the stage. Absolutely blew. The energy in the crowd was like people wanted to rock out. And so when Collective Soul came on after, they blew him off the stage. But backstage, Ed and Billy Squier got into a really intense conversation, had talked about working together. And then apparently it never turned into anything. But Billy Squier said he was interested in working with Collective Soul. I wish there was more of a point to that story, and now I'm regretting that I brought it up. There's really no point to the story. I couldn't believe that I was watching the guys from Collective Soul talking to Billy Squier, because Billy was being a dick to me. I remember that I gave him my comedy CD. I had a comedy CD, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get." And I'm watching Ed and Billy get really into it, and Billy kind of took a pause, looked over in my direction. I go, "Hey, I'm a stand-up comedian," and he just goes like that, just right there.
Stay put.
Kept talking. Yep. Yeah. He gave me the hand, and I just went, "Yes, sir." And I just waited.
Well, Billy's angry. Everybody thought Billy Squier was cool, because I remember he was opening up for Def Leppard. It was like 1983, and we all had tickets, and we were going to see.
Yes.
And he did the video with his wrist, and he's dancing in the night.
Yes.
And you're like,
yeah,
okay. And you talk about homophobic early 80s. You're like, no, dude, not going to see you. No, hell.
Dude, do you guys know about that? Do you know about the Billy Squier video?
Mm-mm.
Killed his.
I feel like I just saw it.
It's a legendary video that people point to, that they say that guy's career ended with that video. Like in overnight, that guy went from being one of the biggest arena rock guys to like, the fuck? Like it was just such an odd.
It was bad.
Choice.
Bad.
Yeah. He was just. Yeah, it was weird. It was just a weird choice. But
what video?
Billy's saying,
"Rock Me Tonight."
Rock Me Tonight.
Okay.
You seeing it? When he falls back on the
I
bed.
think
and
so.
everything?
Yeah. And he's wearing the like tank top thing.
I remember we and a couple of buddies were like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
It was over. It was over. Had he done that 10 years later, whatever. Billy plays for the other team. That's fine. Who cares? Love him.
Well, it was just one of those things that was like, this is just exactly the wrong thing for exactly the wrong time.
That's it.
Well, at the time, people who at that time, people who listened to that music were guys who wore jeans and t-shirts, and he was wearing like a
Yeah, there it
floral.
is.
Yeah, it was like some sweats and a t-shirt and just kind of dancing around
Very
and
Richard Simmons.
it was
Kind of looking at
yeah.
it now.
You know what? It was very flash dance. It was very
It
flash
was.
dance. And but the way he was dancing by himself in the room was it was the craziest thing. It killed his career. And he was a
It was.
incredible talent, not only a great
Mhm.
vocalist, but a great songwriter.
It's a shame.
And definitely had a reputation of being a difficult person to deal with, for sure.
Which made it easy to cut his ass. There you go. He put a hand up to you. Screw him. That's what he gets.
I actually have a great question for you, Steve, because I'm in all your years of doing radio, the one thing I love about doing radio has been getting to meet so many people who I respected and admired who let me down. And then on the flip side of that, there are famous people that I've met on the air at radio shows who I just had no opinion of. I didn't have any kind of feeling. I didn't love them or hate them. I don't think anything of them, but I loved them so much when I met them that I'll defend them for the rest of my life. Can you tell me who that person is that you will defend for the rest of your life, who you weren't a fan of? And I'm not saying you hated him, but you weren't a fan of him before you met him, and you're like, I met that guy, and that guy was so fucking cool that everyone needs to know that person.
Oh God, that's tough. Know that person. I know who I would defend no matter what, but he's big time famous. He's huge. But when I met him, he was everything I thought he should be, and he was. But that would be John Travolta. Met him, and he was so effing cool and gave me 45 minutes private time, talked to me, hung out. I interviewed him at a hotel on his birthday, and he called me 3 different times through his assistant, and they would put me on with him twice when he was in his airplane, once when he was about to take off at Hartsfield on his 707. And I just thought, that guy does not have to take that kind of time out for me, for a guy like me. And the other one would be probably Ron Lester and Emmanuel Lewis. Both I didn't have an opinion on. Ron Lester was in Varsity Blues. He was overweight, then he lost weight, and he was a local boy from here. He and I became close. I got him in an independent film I was doing. We stayed in touch. He was very hurt that Hollywood turned their back on him when he lost all his weight, but he was a real guy. And I just didn't think of him, but I knew him as the fat guy. When he walks in, he's the skinny guy. And I was like, holy shit. And then the other one's Emmanuel Lewis. I had no opinion on that little dude. And Webster to this day is one of my closest buddies.
No way.
Yeah, we're tight.
Oh man,
yeah.
I remember being in town once with a day off and going to a Hawks game, and I was like, "Is that Emmanuel Lewis right there in the court?" I thought I saw
Hawks
him like
and Braves. He will go to Hawks and Braves games like crazy. He's on the field. He's on the court. He works it.
No shit. Okay, now the flip side of that is, who have you met in all years of interviewing everybody who you were a fan of that let you down? Or
oh God, who's the dude? And y'all are going to be able to help me with this. Super bad, gets all the weight and then loses.
Oh, Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill, yeah.
Jonah Hill is a dick.
Really?
Dick. He was to me, not once, twice. Interviews.
He's known for that though.
Yeah, he's kind of got a reputation.
He's well known. There's
Still.
lots of YouTube videos of him being dicks to people.
Yeah, but
and
he's
he was
dicks to like people on the street, which is like, I think that's fair game. Like, I don't know that I would be a dick to someone on the street, just asking for a picture, saying hey, but like, that's fair game. Being a dick to somebody you're like that's interviewing you or talking to you on the radio, that's different.
I did a one-on-one with him, and we were talking about Moneyball, and he just was a jerk, and he didn't have to be. He was like real prickly, and then he kind of came at me, goes, "Do you even know what you're about to ask me?" You know, he said something along those lines. I was just having fun with the dude, and I was like, "Okay, bro, all right, fat boy."
I'm amazed you didn't say Michael B. Jordan. I know he loved you so much.
Michael B. Jordan, I got in a lot of trouble there in Cape Mara because that one got me on Entertainment Tonight. And then they called my partner a racist and called me a sexist. And we were interviewing them over Fantastic Four. And we're in there and he's going, all right, how are y'all brother and sister? I've seen the Fantastic Four. I know this is a different version, but you're obviously a black guy and you're a white girl. And Michael B. Jordan goes, and there's a problem with that? No, not saying there's a problem, but what's the storyline? How are y'all brother and sister? And they didn't like that. And then I moved on to, look, I know you cut all your hair off. I don't know why, but you were so hot in the shooter with the long hair. And now that you have short hair, you're working it pretty good. It's not as hot as your long hair, but I never knew how cute your toes were. You have got perfect little feet. And I started talking about her feet, and then the person goes, cut. And the next thing you know, we're kicked out. We're on camera. We're on a 3-camera deal. They're in the actors' stools. We're standing up facing them. And it got cut, and man, it lit up locally, and then it lit up nationally, and it was a trip.
Well, they probably wanted to lean into that because it would later be revealed that the movie they were promoting was dog shit, like just one of the worst pieces of movie out there.
So every time I get a chance to talk to Michael B. Jordan, we get him on because he doesn't have any idea who he's talking to because these are just phoner interviews. And I'm like, yeah, remember when I interviewed you of the Fantastic Four? And he'll click. He just clicked.
Oh shit! I thought you were gonna say you were gonna take the angle of remember that asshole from Atlanta that interview and pretend to not be that person.
Yeah, what was up with that guy?
I could.
Yeah. I remember.
I'll do that next. That's good.
Yeah, you need to do that.
I remember like 25 years ago when I first started in radio. I started with this guy named Bob Rivers, Twisted Radio, really popular radio show that had song parodies that were so popular they actually would chart on the Billboard chart, like in the top 40 of Billboard singles. And we had Gene Simmons come in to promote. At the time, it was a Kiss convention tour. Kiss actually went out and did like 10 or 20 cities where it was an all-day convention where you could see all the original costumes and everything.
I was there at the one in Atlanta. I hosted it for 96 Rock, and 95, 96, I was there.
Yeah, 95, 96.
Those dudes gave us time. They came in studio with me and Alan Ayo. He let me in, stayed in the studio for an hour and a half. Paul and Gene.
No shit.
When we got there, they allowed me to bring my brother backstage. And Paul and I have a kinship because he dated a girl from my high school. She left our high school mid-year and had to get her GED because he just basically took her and didn't bring her back for like 8 months.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh,
so every time I see him, I bring up Doris, and he's like, oh, Doris. He knows.
Wow. Well, so Gene comes into the studio to promote the Kiss convention tour, and I have an idea. I want to go. I don't want to do it in the studio, and I think it was already planned out. Like, this is going to be funnier if Craig's on the phone, so that Gene can't see it; he just hears it. Which is, I'm going to call in as Sam Kinison, calling live from the gates of hell, and the premise was, hey Gene. I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of Kiss tribute bands down here in hell, and Hitler's their promoter, because Hitler. If anybody can get a crowd together, it's Hitler. And Gene started to play along with it, and he said, "Let me guess, does Satan play me on the bass?" And I said, "No, it's not Satan. It's actually." Jeffrey Dahmer plays you on the bass, and then when he starts spitting up the blood, his tongue falls out, and you go, "Oh, Jesus, that's not his tongue! Oh, 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 oh!" And then Gene laughs, and he has a good time with it. And my plan is, all right, now I'm going to go out of the hallway, and I'm going to introduce myself to Gene and say, "Hey, what did you think of that Sam Kinison guy?" And if he says, "That wasn't funny, I didn't like it," I'd be like, "Oh man, he just left. He just left. He just took off." But if he said he liked it, I was going to be like, "That was me. Can I get 2 tickets for the show?" Like, I was going to be pathetic and hit him up. And he actually was cool about it. He said, "I loved it. Was that you?" And I said, "That was me, man." And we talked about comedy, and he got me into the show. That I was just thinking, when you talk about Michael B. Jordan still calls in and has no idea who he's calling into, you might get some mileage out of saying, "Man, there was a guy in this town who was such a jerk to you, man. Remember how much of a jerk he was?" Mm-hmm. Dude, you can get some mileage out of Michael B. Jordan by letting him talk shit about you without even realizing he's talking to you. You should do that.
Dude, done. You just produced my interview. I will totally do it. I haven't even thought of that angle. We just kind of would tube it just to hear him click, and we thought it was funny. But no, that's fantastic, and I love all the voices and everything. And I actually, got geared up, and the guys have been doing a wonderful job about promoting you. Matter of fact, we only have 4 VIP tickets left, and those
Oh,
four
wow.
VIP tickets, that's it on VIP, and that gets you a meet and greet with Craig, get you
Mhm.
backstage, get you some free drinking, get you a hat and a shirt for the Yeah Come On launch. And this again is Legends Yeah Come On Bourbon Whiskey. And
Sweet.
the taste, dude, I'm so proud of this. I tell you the taste, I know you don't drink, but I may take a pinky and just put it on your tongue. I just want you to just, something, just a little nibble, just lick it off my finger, Craig. I'll wash my hand in front of you and I'll dab your tongue. But
Sunday,
I
everyone's
just
gonna be like, "What do you mean Craig didn't make his flight?" Oh man, he relapsed hard.
he relapsed hard. Steve put a dab on him, and that sent him off the wagon. What did he do? He drank an entire fifth of Yeah Come On.
He had sex with 5 twos, man. I told him, don't
Uh,
go
dude,
up with 7. Don't
I
go up,
kept
but stay.
he
stay.
I couldn't stop him. 2 of them are pregnant. I don't know what to do. Craig. Yeah, no, I would not want you to come off the wagon, but I love the fact that you'll be here. I'm like, Craig will also get us all home safe, guys. He'll be we'll have Craig drive us home, because the rest of us are like, how in the hell are we getting home? It's like Uber City, from where
Yep.
we're headed.
Yeah.
But again, I just wanted to thank you for being on the podcast. We were going to do a quickie with you. It's impossible, and I dig it. And I just want people to know you're probably going to do about a 45-minute set. Maybe an hour, your call, but it's going to be fantastic. And again, for those that don't know, and they should know, God, if you haven't looked up the fact that where you've lived, what you've done, the shows you've been on, Howard Stern just alone, employing you, and then the comedy tour and the King of Queens. I love that. But I just want to thank Brett and Evan for getting out all your stuff. I think everybody is looking forward to meeting and seeing you. So it'll be cool. I'll take a back seat to your ass. No problem.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited to be a part of it. And again, I had that moment from the very first time that I met Southside. And I would bring it up to Southside. I think it was at the Super Bowl, at the media center at the Super Bowl. I was like, dude, I got to tell you this, man. I have never forgotten this. And I wasn't sure if Southside remembered it or not, but I was like,
Oh yeah.
I've been retelling this story for years about the time that I bonded with a stranger over Southern classic rock music. Like I didn't even know that was possible. And
Yeah, I don't know if people know about that. The hold on loosely, but don't let go. I'm like, what do you think he's talking about? A steering wheel? But no, that's life. You don't let go. You just hold on loose. If you hold on too tight, then you're smothering somebody, and you're also not yourself, and you're intense. So you're either loving too hard or you're too angry, but you're not being yourself. But if you can hold on loosely, keep who you are, and then the chick is into you.
and the crazy thing is, I had never thought about the meaning until you said that in that conversation when I really, really was in tremendous pain. Looking back, it just makes me laugh that that was your advice that you plucked out of thin air, man. It's just like 38 Special says, man. You gotta hold on loosely, but you don't let go. And I was like, exactly. And I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like, that's it, man. I was just buying.
We're like hugging. It's gonna be okay, man. Her law.
We just needed a couple Chick-fil-A sandwiches. That's what I tell the ladies. Like it was 2 guys just bonding over it.
Anybody got any sweet tea? We're talking in here now.
Yeah, dude. It was amazing. It was really amazing. I've always been eternally grateful for that. And so yeah, some comedy, and then some great live music, and then I just know that you, who I'm assuming is going to be the master of ceremonies, right? You're going to MC the thing.
Yeah, I'll
right?
MC the event for sure. Yeah, I'll be
right.
doing all of that, and handling you and giving you a good stage intro. I'm sure I'll go for about 4 or 5 minutes before I bring you on. Do whatever I do.
And I'm certain that because it's Southside's event, there will be no one under a 7 there. It'll be all 7s to 10s. Everyone in there's a 7 to 10.
I got a couple of ugly friends. Couple. It's not my fault. I just like them for who they are. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
But yes, if any, that's a horrible, horrible thing to say. I'm not that bad. I'm not that bad. I'm just joking. But you're right. I can't believe I'm sitting there wanting to have you on to talk about bourbon, and we went right down my sex trail. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna be like, honey. She'll be like, oh, where's the podcast? I'm like, you don't need to watch it. You don't
We
need to
didn't
listen
have
to
one this week.
it.
Crazy.
Yeah, we just didn't do it. We didn't
Yeah,
do
we're
it.
doing it live on Saturday.
Yeah.
That's
we
another
are.
thing. That's a whole other conversation, is how your wife feels about you going, yeah, man, 419.
She's cool.
419. Not just 19, 419.
Yeah, and then I know what number I'm at. I'm a single digit, so I'm like, well, thank God you were a good person, because I wasn't. But you know what? Also, there's 22 years between us, and she gets it. We got a 5 and a 2-year-old. But once I kissed her, I didn't kiss anybody else. I got that going for me. I only said I love you to the first one and the last one. I got that going for me. So the rest of them, I just never said love. You don't have to say love to get laid. I don't throw that word around, So there's no need. I know a lot of guys do, and I'm like, oh God. But so I mean,
where were you giving me that advice like 10 years ago?
I know.
Like, what the fuck?
You just,
it works though.
It's the book I haven't written. It does work, but it gets things way too heavy, way too quick, and you don't want to play house.
Hey,
you
Steve,
just let them know.
Remind me tomorrow when I join you on the air live from the stadium, the love advice from Gene Simmons. It is epic. It is.
Can't wait. And and I saw you. You were able to roast Gene, which was great. I love the roast of Gene Simmons. That was fantastic. You sitting there, and I think a lot of people had never even heard you do Gene, which was so fun to watch. Just the different people on the panel, or not on the panel. It is the give me the word. The dais, yeah. So the only person that I really roasted, and this is funny too, John Rocker had me out to his house. He had this huge ass mansion. It turns out he's got it, but in order to keep it, he rents it out to Hollywood and he rents it out to people. So then he bails out and goes to a hotel, like maybe a month, just to pay for the house, because it was like 9 bedroom, this huge home in Alpharetta, Johns Creek. And I'm there, and he had some people there, and I roasted him, and I just burnt his ass to the ground, and he loved me for it. But I know where the bodies are buried, and I just went to town on him. And and I'm like, because when you do a roast, yours was sweet to Gene, but you know how it is. You're like, are we still friends?
Yeah, I always do. Like, I'll say nice things, and then I'll turn around and talk about how much I admire the person, because I do. I know with D. Snyder, I really, really tore into him, but D also helped me with my career. He actually gave him a spot on his morning show that he had a very, believe it or not, a very popular morning radio show in Hartford, Connecticut, in a town where, and you guys will understand this radio lingo, he had like, when Howard Stern was the king of New York, the king of all media, he was pulling in a 6 share in New York City, meaning that 6% of all the radios in New York City were listening to Howard Stern.
Yeah, man.
In Hartford, D was pulling in a 13 share in the same town that Howard was pulling in a 16 share. So those two guys just dominated the market. Howard had all the men in Hartford, and D had all the women, believe it or not. And so when we did the roast, I roasted him and talked about how hideous he was and how he looked like Dennis from The Mask, and all those jokes, and then talked about how much I really do love you, and how grateful I am for your friendship and how much you supported me, and I know how proud you are for everything I've done since I've worked with you. So I'm not a mean person. So it's
I know you're not.
It's hard for me to do those roasts, but man, I love a good roast joke, dude. I mean, I'll like an inappropriate joke. This is good. This might be a weird way to end this. In fact, I can already tell you this is a weird way to end this, but
okay.
Comedians can laugh at anything. A friend of mine that I started out with, named Brody Stevens, killed himself a few years ago, and we did a memorial for him at the Comedy Store that was that featured the hardest laugh I've ever seen anywhere, and it was at a memorial for this guy who hung himself. Brody was in The Hangover 1 and 2, so the entire cast, including Bradley Cooper, of The Hangover are there, and tons of comedians and a lot of baseball players, because Brody played baseball in college. So some of the guys from the Dodgers were there, and some of the guys from the Cubs, and the Zach Galifianakis gives a very touching speech that is a perfect tone. And then they had 1 hour of his friends and family all sharing stories. And because it's the Comedy Store, his friends and family were trying to be funny, and it was awkward. Some of them were funny, but the ones that were funny stayed on a little too long. And then the last person in the friends and family group said something that I can't remember, but it was so touching and so sweet that the entire room started sobbing.
Oh,
Everyone's crying, and they said, "Next up is Jeff Ross." And Jeff walks out. The whole room is crying, and Jeff goes, "Man, after listening to all of Brody's friends and family for the last hour, I kind of get why he hung himself." Boom! And it was the biggest laugh I've ever heard, ever. And even the people he was roasting laughed at it, and everybody agreed if Brody was here, he would have loved that joke. Yeah, so yeah, I can appreciate a really inappropriate joke.
No, and I can dig it. You tell all the inappropriate jokes you want tomorrow night. You're going to have the right, or Saturday night. You're going to have the right crowd. Yeah, Saturday night. Again, anybody watching, we're going to put this podcast out. We're going to blast it for about 48 hours. 4 VIP tickets. They could be gone now, left. But we got general admission and we got standing room only. And we're going to let anybody in that we can get in. It's big, and we just want you to come in. Taste the bourbon. We've got hats and shirts to give away to people that just come in, and it's going to be a hell of a night with a lot of toast. And since you will be sober, if I start to get too drunk and talking, I'm slurring, come up and talk to me, Craig, and just be like, "Stop."
All right, you got it.
You're starting.
All right.
I've heard my.
What if that happens before we even start?
I won't do that. I'll keep it. I got these two guys. So Brett and Evan will keep me good. And then, I'll be focused on what's going on. So I don't know at what point I'll even have a couple, but it takes a lot to get me to that point. But I'll be a good citizen for sure. I'm looking forward to having a long, fun night. But again, thank you for doing it. Brett, Evan, in closing, is there anything you want to ask Craig or anything you want to say? I will say to get your tickets at spiritusa.com. spiritusa.com, or yes, you can go to Legends Distillery, legends.com, but any of those places to click on to get tickets to see Craig and then some of the boys from Collective Soul.
I thought about asking him about my bruise, but I don't know if we should go there.
Show him
Saturday.
No, let him see it. I think we need to see it. See it.
Okay. This is a 4th of July incident.
Oh my God.
What he just did, I did a month ago, and it hurts. Oh, it hurts. And I hit 5 of them. Go ahead and show him.
All right, Evan, you're gonna have to blur this bad boy out.
I got it.
Well, just don't you have to show everything, just a little.
Whoa!
Yeah. Whoa!
Whoa! What the fuck?
I fell down a flight of stairs at a buddy's lake house.
Wow.
That would hurt.
Dude, I haven't seen it. I just heard about it. But
story goes, a week ago, I was helping my wife set up for a party, dropped a bottle of Tito's through a box. It blew up. Glass went into both my feet. So I had to go get it removed from both my feet. So I have like holes in my feet right now. So I'm at his lake house and I was like, okay, I need to keep my feet covered. So I'm in socks. Well, the staircase are all wood. And I hit the staircase like Fred Flintstone starting the car. And I'm carrying all my bags downstairs where I'm staying. And I'm in the air and I'm going to myself. And it was like slow motion. Like, do I catch myself and drop everything? All this stuff's running through my mind. And it's 2:00 in the morning. So I'm not the most sober. And I was like, nope, just take it. Boom, 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 boom. All the way down.
You did the right thing. You got to relax.
Everyone.
Yeah. I don't want to sound insensitive, but would there happen to be a Ring camera that captured any of this?
God, please.
God, no, but I did wake everyone in the house up.
It hurt.
You know what's funny is everybody that wakes up is annoyed with you, even though you hurt yourself.
And I set the dog off. The dog was now then barking for another half hour. And my buddy's wife that's running the whole thing, she's like getting up at 6 a.m. She's Italian, so she's cooking all weekend, and she has like a spreadsheet of every meal and in the kitchen constantly. So I wake her up and she can't go back to sleep. She told me she ended up being on TikTok till 5 a.m. with an alarm clock at 6.
Wow.
Mm.
I don't know if you're throwing in that you're also on TikTok. I don't know if that's really your problem that she's on TikTok till 5 a.m.
That's not your
but-
problem.
No, not my problem at all.
Not your
Yeah.
problem.
I was
Evan, I
getting
want
right
to thank
upstairs.
you. Yeah, I want to thank Evan for missing Thor to talk to you. He wanted to go see Thor tonight
Didn't
at
think
8
about it.
p.m. and we said no, and he had to be
No,
on
this
this
is more
podcast.
important to me.
Thank you.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward
Look
to
at
having
that.
fun on Saturday, man. I'm going to be there, ready to rock and have some fun. And I'm excited now, knowing that John Rocker is going to be there. And yeah, man, we'll get some stand up, get everybody in a good mood, and then we'll get some live music, and we'll just have a great night. It's going to be a perfect evening. It's just going to be a cool hang, and I'm looking forward to being a part of it. So.
Yeah, and real quick, how can people follow you or check you out now that, with all you're doing? I know with Howard out for 10 weeks, you're doing a little bit of a comedy tour.
Doing a little bit of a comedy tour now, and then I'm doing an arena tour with Russell Peters at the beginning of 2023. All the info's at getgas.com. Getgas with 2 S's.com is where all the info's at.
Perfect, man. Thanks again, Craig. We love you. This is show 136, and I just want to thank our sponsors quickly. OxygenFinancial.com for all your financial needs. Circle285.com. If you're looking to bundle, you should. You're paying too much for your insurance. Get your home and car all in one place. And lastly, because we do know there are people out there in pain, you got to have a psychiatrist, and we do. Dr. David Markwell, Ridgeline Counseling. Go to Ridgeline Counseling if you think you need to talk to somebody in person, or you can talk to him just the way we're doing it right now. You can do a little zoomy zoom. And bee pollen, Joe Bees. You got to get your bee pollen. I take 2 pills a day. JoeBees.com. That's it. Can I get a come on, Craig gas?
Yeah, come on. How about a couple of different come ons? Here's
Yes, sir.
Al Pacino. Let's do Al Pacino, Tracy Morgan, and a Gene Simmons. Come on.
And throw in, and lastly, can you give me a Paul Stanley to finish?
All right, you got it. So it'll be Al Pacino, Tracy Morgan, Gene Simmons, and Paul Stanley doing a come on. Here we go.
All right, come on. Yeah, come on, baby. That's sexy. Yeah, come on. Yeah, people, come on. Go to kissonline.com. Boom.